Okay, now in this lesson we are going to talk about different Photoshop effects and layer styles that are supported by your developers or what is called CSS cascading style sheets. Okay, so if you are talking to a developer, you need to know that these things are possible. Okay, if you are not sure, then you should talk to your developers or development team that I am going to use this effect or this gradient or this something in my design, whether is it possible in CSS or not. Okay, can you convert it into code easily or not? I'm going to show you some of the tools and sites where you can use the latest CSS experiments and different effects. And I think if you know these and you are exposed to these effects and you know that these things are possible in CSS, your developers can't argue with you. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, first I'm going to start with different Photoshop layer effects. Okay, now here I have some support which is from CSS Hat. It is a Photoshop plugin, okay, extension, and it supports different CSS styles, and there it can generate their code instantly. Okay, so it shows gradient, solid layer fill, gradient overlay, drop shadow, text layers, inner shadow, color overlay, inner glow, stroke, outer glow, border radius. Okay, so border radius is basically what we use in rounded rectangular buttons. Okay, opacity, how opaque or how transparent it is. Then we have less style and sass and stylus. Okay, these are different languages, or you can say CSS preprocessors. You don't need to worry about them. Okay, now let's switch to Photoshop and I'm going to show you how many styles and layer styles you can use over here. Okay, so here we have this button. I'm going to select it because it is using a lot of different effects. Okay, so if we go to layer styles, you can see I'm using a gradient overlay. Okay, so this gradient overlay is possible. You don't need to worry about it. You can use as many colors as you want, any angle you want. Okay, then we have these drop shadows. You can even use multiple drop shadows and they can be converted into code, okay, easily. Also for inner shadows, you can use two inner shadows. You can also use stroke, but don't go over 2 strokes. Okay, so 2 different strokes, you can see, don't use more than 2 strokes effects. Okay, so you can see I have doubled them up. Avoid this bevel and emboss. Okay, so you need to avoid this over here. Inner glow, inner shadow, stroke, color overlay, gradient overlay, and drop shadows, and outer glow. Avoid this pattern overlay and this satin and this bevel and emboss. You don't need to use them. Okay, other effects, they can be easily calculated into your coding, and if you right click on it, you can see you can copy CSS, which is the code for your developers, and if you paste it, you can see here it has border radius, which is the corners of your buttons. Then background image, here we have all the gradients. Then we have box shadows, multiple box shadows, which is our drop shadow basically. And then we have position absolute, don't worry about these. Then we have this width and height, and also don't worry about these. Okay, and let me show you the live example how I use this code and convert it into this button over here. Let me show you. Okay, so here is our same button, and it is not an image, it is basically a coded example. Okay, so I am right now using these settings over here. I use the same code generated by Photoshop and pasted it over here, and you can see over here all the shadows. You can see 3 shadows, a purple and 2 dim shadows. They are looking great over here. Okay, then let me show you some of the more effects and which are possible, and new things and blogs you need to see, and the sites you need to see to expose yourself. Okay, one is this codepen.io. There are a lot of different experiments going on over here. You can see this background, this slanted background is done by coding. Okay, so they are not using any kind of image over here. Okay, also you can see this cinematic CSS effect. This is also generated with CSS. There are million of possibilities you can do now with the latest CSS3. Okay, so also you can see if I hover over it, you can see there is a wavy line around this. Okay, these are different effects. Then let me show you, these are different click effects. Okay, they are really interactive, really awesome. If you know these effects, you have seen these. This is basically the blog timpanus.net, and there are millions of different experiments and different things over here. You can see this is play and pause. You can use it on some audio sound app or something like that. Then you can see there are many button styles. These are very interactive styles. You can tell your developers that you are going to use this style on my button or this one on my button. Okay, you can see over here, these are different styles. If I press them, they show different styles, like you can see over here. So there are many possibilities you can do. Okay, so you can see over here, there are different options. There are different loading effects of different text. Okay, and you can see. Okay, so these are possible with just the coding. You don't need to worry about its implementation. If you already know that this effect is possible, then you have upper hand above your team and your development team. You know that you can easily tell them that I need this effect over here. Okay, you can see over here. Let me show you, there are other possibilities. Like you can see the gradient is moving from this direction to this direction. So if I try to change the angle, or if I try to add one more color over here, maybe this one. Okay, so let me show you the preview, and you can see our gradient is changed and it is moving from this direction to this direction. Okay, so there are many possibilities. You can use a lot of different styles. Different header styles you can see over here. Also I have seen this curvy style. You can see these curves are also possible with CSS and HTML and all these different styles. Okay, so there are many possibilities. I'm going to include the links for all these sites, and I hope you have enjoyed this lesson. If you want to learn more or need to know more about them, you can ask me in the questions. Okay, these are the major things or effects you need to know, that these are possible in Photoshop, and also your developers can develop using these styles. Okay, so I hope that you have learned a lot about these layer styles. Let's move on to the next lesson.